Right here, right now, wrestling rants, baby! It's a 2 for 2, actually a 2 for Thursday. Here in Wrestling Rants, it's been a few days. Back in the saddle again with some must-see midweek matches. Followed up with retrospective because it is a Throwback Thursday. We are going to do a rant looking back at this day in wrestling on July 13th. But before we get into that, like I said, it's time for midweek must-see matches. That's our first rant of the evening here tonight on a Thursday night. But stay tuned this weekend. I decided we're going to be doing Versus tomorrow, which is once again that weekly look at Ring of Honor versus Impact head-to-head, quarter hours. Unfortunately, I did not get time this week to do what I was anticipating to do, which was the Versus rant on SmackDown versus Collision. Since I didn't get an opportunity to do that, let me just kind of breeze and go back, take a look at those shows. I have to say, those both were excellent shows this week. The Madison Square Garden SmackDown was definitely a must-see show, if there ever was one this week. And as well, I think Collision this week was a must-see show as well. So check both of those out if you haven't already. I think those were the best shows of the week in terms of weekly TV. And I talked about it in the last rant I did, the mega rant on MLW, Never Say Never, but I thought that was a show definitely worth checking out as well. So, let's get into the matches themselves of the week. Of note, we have 10 matches total this week as far as must-see matches to check out. So let's get into the list as I have it for the week of, I believe this would have been July 6th through July 12th. All right, so July 6th, this would have been last Thursday. We're going to take a look at what was going on in the world of wrestling. We just had the usual Impact Arena and Ring of Honor, of course. And Impact had one match I would say definitely worth checking out, and that was the main event. Lio Rush, Nick Aldis against the Motor City Machine Guns. A really good preview for Slammiversary, which is coming up this weekend. You know we are going to be doing a mega rant on that pay-per-view. Just a heads up on that. That will be coming probably on Monday. Right here, Wrestling Rants. Maybe even Sunday. I think it's Saturday night. I believe it might be Sunday. Have to double check on that. But it is this weekend for sure. Shit, it might even be Friday for all I know. So be looking for that, a mega rant on Slammiversary. Going back to the matches, we talked about Rush and Aldis over the Machine Guns in that main event of Impact last week. Set up both singles matches for singles titles at Slammiversary pretty damn well, I thought. Also, on the Ring of Honor, one match really stood out to me, and that was the opening match for Ring of Honor, and that was Commander in there against Gringo Loco. These two just worked so well together. If you're into the high spots and the high-flying acrobatic feats of craziness, this match was definitely for you. How about on the 7th? This would have been Friday night. I really didn't see anything of much ado, I guess you could say, on Rampage this week. I really couldn't say any of those matches were particularly must-see. I do think on SmackDown, though, for Madison Square Garden, the Grayson Waller and Edge match was definitely solid stuff. I thought Waller looked really good there in a loss to Edge. It kind of is a WWE formula in a sense where they don't have the new guy go over right away, but they make him look good in the ring with an established veteran. This was your, I guess, cookie cutter example of that for sure. But a really solid match. I thought these two guys worked well. I would like to see a rematch down the road between them even. On Saturday, on the 8th, there was a lot of stuff going on in the world of wrestling that day. Two particular shows had two matches on each event that I think were really worth checking out. We'll talk about Collision first. That great match, non-title, Bullet Club Gold going over FTR to lead to a 2 out of 3 falls match this Saturday on Collision, which I'm sure will probably make this list once again. But this match was old school tag team wrestling at its best. Really good match. Even like a half hour on Collision as well. I was impressed that they let this match breathe, and because of that, it really built well. Very much so. Also, what can you say? CM Punk and Samoa Joe reigniting that rivalry from 20 years ago. We finally get this match again. I really enjoyed it. It was a nice nostalgic harken back to their other matches. Certainly not at the same level as those matches in Ring of Honor were, but this was a fun main event for sure. And another match that I hope we see a rematch of coming up soon here, similar to Waller and Edge. I want to see another Samoa Joe and CM Punk match. In fact, go ahead and streamline it for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view for the television title. I'm cool with it. Let's do it. Let's go. All right. Then also on Saturday we had MLW Never Say Never. 2 matches stood out on this pay-per-view. The calling over the SST, the Samoan SWAT team, for the MLW tag titles in a Fans Bring the Weapons match. This was in the old ECW arena. Just reminded me of so much ECW back in the day in the 90s, where they did this gimmick many times over in Philadelphia. They never disappointed, and this was yet another example of that. And then we got the main event for the World Championship. Alex Kane defeated an over 650-day title streak of Alexander Hammerstone to win the MLW World Championship in a nice, solid, well-built, high-impact world title match main event. Let's move on to nothing on Sunday. Let's move over to Monday. Raw, I felt like the main event was clunky. There was not a lot of in-ring that really stood out. If anything did of note, I would say it's probably Zoe Stark going over Becky Lynch, just because Stark got a win. It wasn't a clean win by any means. There was a lot of interference by Trish Stratus, but I did enjoy this match for what it was. I thought Becky Lynch was working pretty hard to make Zoe Stark look good in there. And what can you say? Zoe Stark gets a win over Becky Lynch. Hopefully this means slowly but surely a push to maybe a singles title for Zoe Stark sooner or later. On the 11th, this was on Tuesday, NXT had a pretty good main event of Carmelo Hayes and his sidekick Trick Williams against the Judgment Day of Finn Balor and Damian Priest. I'm kind of teeter-tottering on getting that a nod for the must-see matches. I'll say, if you're watching NXT anyway, go ahead and check out the main event. But there was a match on this show that was something else, and that was Ilya Dragunov over Braun Breaker in an absolute awesome physical fight of a match that probably was one of the better NXT matches TV-wise on free TV this year. Really go out of your way to see this match. These guys were beating the shit out of each other. Very stiff. A lot of holy shit spots in the ring. Not really a high spot based match by any means. More of a, for example, one spot was Ilya Dragunov basically doing a running Death Valley driver into the corner turnbuckles, and Braun Breaker took it absolutely terribly. Braun Breaker got some sort of receipt of some sort, it felt like, with a wicked, sick-ass clothesline to Ilya Dragunov. And just overall, this match had good near falls. Wow. This should have been the main event of NXT, if you ask me. The win gives Ilya Dragunov an opportunity against Carmelo Hayes at the Great American Bash in that main event for the NXT title. So good stuff here all around on NXT. Then to close out the list, I got one match that stood out to me on Dynamite, and that was the debut on AEW of Nick Wayne, the 18-year-old prodigy. This was his first match, they said, in Canada, I believe. and he worked his ass off against Swerve Strickland. Strickland did get the win, but there was some spots of wow, wow, wow in this match. Really excellent debut for Nick Wayne, and I'm very intrigued to see where they go with him in the future. That is for damn sure. 10 matches this week. It's part of must-see matches. I think out of them all, the match that really stood out to me was that Ilya Dragunov and Braun Breaker match from NXT. Definitely worth out of your way and checking that out. A few other honorable mentions. If you're short on time this week and just want to check out some of the maybe top 2 or 3 matches of the week, check out that Bullet Club Gold match with FTR. It's not going to let you down. Then the final match, I would say the rest of them, I'd say go out of your way and check out the match with Alex Kane over Hammerstone. I thought the crowd was in a really unique frenzy for this match, and it felt like a big-time world title match. And MLW's first pay-per-view in 4 years did not disappoint. No doubt about it. All right, folks, come on back, Rantrospective. This week in wrestling, or this day in wrestling, I should say, July 13th, coming up next, right here in wrestling. Baby.